Oh my, holy shit, look at that highlighter. That's not what we're here for. Anyway, hi, today I have a very exciting tutorial for you. The all-new Blend Bunny Cosmetics Sugar and Grunge palette just arrived, and I cannot wait to put this all over my eyeballs. So if you followed me for more than a hot second, you know that I am absolutely obsessed with all things Blend Bunny. I have every single palette. I have all the other ones over here. I have the cream lipsticks. I have everything. The brand is amazing. The highlighter is also Blend Bunny. This is their Noctilucent highlighter palette. That's besides the point. I'm a huge fan of Blend Bunny Cosmetics. So when I say I'm excited, I am excited. Okay, so this is the all-new Sugar and Grunge palette, like I said. So this has 24 shades, and here she is in all her glory. If you're also a longtime Blend Bunny Cosmetics lover like myself, you'll notice something different about this eyeshadow palette, and that are the shimmers at the bottom. Now, if you're like, Cody, what's the difference? Let me show you compared to the Primal eyeshadow palette, which is like one of my faves. You see how the shimmers at the bottom of this match the colors of each row? In Grunge, it does not. So like normally you would see like the blue over here and this pink one over there. It's hard to do that backwards in a monitor, but they're all over the place now. So let me know how you feel about that. I know a lot of people are pretty opinionated about it, even though it's just eyeshadow, but people really, really love this layout. I know for a fact that Blend Bunny Cosmetics, they love to be unique and innovative, but also they mention that when you do something over and over and over, that really kind of makes people end up copying you, and that really gets annoying. So they're just switching it up a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. So the Sugar and Grunge palette retails for $41. Yes, you can still use code Cody Jay for 10% off your order. That is an affiliate code, so I do get a couple bucks in my pocket. Thank you for supporting both of us. And if you don't want to use the code, that's fine. I mean, who doesn't want to save money? So let me prep my eyes real quick and we'll get started. Okay, I got my lids prepped with my Gerard Cosmetics Clean Canvas eyeshadow base. I've used this so much the label on the back is literally gone. So today I'm feeling like it's a halo kind of moment. I love my halo eyeshadow, so let's just get started. So I'm feeling like I want to go to my usual favorite colors, which are going to be the pinks and the burgundies over here, as well as some of the purple, and maybe we'll dip into a little bit of the blue. So to get this going, I'm going to dip into the shade Drew, and I'm just going to start packing this on my inner and outer corners in small circular motions. Immediately you can see the pigmentation or the payoff of this palette is fantastic. All of her formulas, all Blend Bunny Cosmetics formulas are truly incredible. And I guess that's why they're probably wildly successful. Same thing on the inner corner. Now, one thing about me is I love to create eyeshadow looks that are really easy to replicate because everyone's on a different skill level. Everyone's on a different part of their makeup journey. Like for me, I like to create looks that are pretty simple or easy to replicate because at the end of the day, if you're watching a tutorial, I think 9 out of 10 times you'd like to replicate that tutorial. And if it's something that's crazy, difficult, or intricate, like, and you're just not going to be able to, like, what's the point of watching, you know? Okay, so now that that's stamped on, just lightly bounce this brush around the outer edges just to soften them up a little bit. Okay, next to soften that up a little bit more. Get out of my hair. All right, next to soften that up a little bit more, I'm going to go into the shade Flannel here at the top. I'm just going to start taking this right around the edges, just softly blending them out. Don't be afraid if this is kind of messy looking. It's completely fine. This is not meant to be a super precise, structured kind of look. This is a super quick and easy, very simple kind of eyeshadow look today. Same thing on the other side, just gently brush against the edges. Feel free to take it down in towards the center of that first shadow we used. Just going to help blend it and create more of a little bit of a gradient. Now I do want to take this up into my crease slightly because I do have hooded eyes, so I do want to take it up a little bit higher. That way you can actually see it when I'm looking at you. Now we're actually dipping back into that first shade, which is Drew, and we're going to stamp this right back in the middle. When you're blending shadows out, sometimes you'll lose a little bit of that core pigmentation, which is completely fine. Just go right back in and stamp over it with that first shade just to bring a little bit of life back to it. Formula, like I said, not surprised. It's just so smooth, so creamy. Everything blends like a dream. It's very, very little work. So if you're a beginner with eyeshadow, I truly, truly recommend trying out Blend Bunny Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes over anything else. I just really feel like these are amazing for beginners. Need Botox, look at that, that's horrible. Okay, for the center of the lid, we're gonna go in with a little bit of shimmer, so that's why we left that space open. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're gonna kind of reshape it right now. So for shimmer, I think we're gonna go in with a little bit of, should we do butterfly? Should we do something crazy? Or do you think that's gonna be weird looking?
Do it.
Actually, let's go in with bubblegum. Let's be a little safe today.
Okay.
Now I'm going to start off with a brush just to show you what it looks like with a brush, but I do find that with Blend Bunny shimmers, this formula is very, very creamy. So while I don't love to use my fingers when it comes to makeup, I do feel like it applies best with a finger. So like that's what it looks like right off the bat. It looks really, really pretty. But like, let me show you with a finger. Hello.
Hello.
See how it immediately just zhuzhes it up? way more intense. Do you see the difference? That's pretty significant if you ask me. So we're just going to stamp that on. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to reshape it here in just a second. So going back in one more time with a little bit of Drew, that first shade, we're going to start shaping it and kind of taking it at a diagonal on the lid just to kind of close that line off. Same thing on the other side, just to soften it up. Now what I'm going to do is take a really clean, fluffy brush, and I'm going to dip into a little bit of Skater Girl all the way at the top, very, very light pink. I'm just going to brush this over the top of this blend just to make sure everything's nice and seamless and smooth. It connects it a little bit, but not enough to make it look dramatic. It just looks light and airy. What do you think? All right, it's time for under eye. I'm going with my trusty Makeup Shack T14 brush. And now we're going to dip more into the purples over here. I'm going to go in with the shade Detention, and we're going to bring this under our lower lash line. I am a hoe when it comes to lower eyeshadow. What? I just feel like it connects everything together and it looks so nice. I just can't imagine not having eyeshadow underneath my lashes. So I just take it all the way to my inner corner. I always close my eye just so I can make sure I can bring it right up and connect it to that outer corner of the shadow on top. And then just very, very quickly and lightly, I brush through it. This is just going to blend it out and diffuse it so it's not super harsh. If you wanted to take a second to add a second color just to lighten it up and diffuse it even more, feel free to, but I like this shade just the way it is. See how it just like brings everything together but also adds a little pop of something? Okay, that's looking really good. Real quick, off camera, I'm going to do the other eye, throw on some lashes, mascara, and a lip, and I'll be right back to show you guys the final look. Okay, I'm back, and here's the final look all complete. I think it is so stunning. I threw on some Glamnetic lashes, and I threw on a new L'Oreal Color Riche lipstick in the shade Le Plum Dominant. Je t'appelle blue. Okay, so let me get you up close. So cute. I know. So let me give you my final thoughts on the all-new Sugar and Grunge eyeshadow palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. For starters, packaging is always spot on. They are so creative with their packaging. Everything's so beautiful. I never know what to expect next, but I always expect it to be beautiful. And this is beautiful. I think the colors are amazing. Now, again, there are 24 shades in this. It says for the 90s sweetheart. Yeah, I was born in the 90s, but I don't know anything about the 90s. What? So if you resonate with this palette, fantastic. Oh. The colors inside are super cute. Love it. I really, really love the pastels here at the top. Definitely, if you want a lighter eyeshadow moment, you can definitely do that with a lot of these shades. Deepen them up with these rows here. And then, of course, you have these shimmers at the bottom. Again, the layout of the shimmers is very different in this palette. They don't coincide with the exact color family like they normally do, but I think that's totally fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with changing up some placement and things like that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Blend Bunny's brand. She can do whatever she wants. Again, the Sugar and Grunge eyeshadow palette does retail for $41. Again, you can still use code Cody Jay to save 10% off on this. Overall, formula, 10 out of 10. They always are. It never surprises me how great these formulas are. The blendability, the pigmentation, the ease of use, fantastic for a beginner. 10 out of 10. This is so beautiful. There are some new lippies coming out as well, so be on the lookout for those. I'll, of course, do a try-on video for those as well. I would love to know what your guys' thoughts are on the all-new Sugar and Grunge palette. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you like the new layout? Do you love the colors? Do you not love the colors? And honestly, what would you like to see from Blend Bunny Cosmetics in the future? Because, of course, right now we have eyeshadow, we have lashes, we have lippies, we have highlighter, we have face palettes, we have lip oils. What else would you like to see? But that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching today's review and tutorial of the all-new Blend Bunny Cosmetics Sugar and Grunge eyeshadow palette. I'm obsessed. I love this. Can't wait to create more looks with it. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. If you're a beginner in makeup and you want to learn how to serve up the most beautiful and easy glam makeup look, this is the video for you. I'm going to walk you through the easiest everyday glam makeup tutorial. That way you can look snatched and ready to go each and every single day. For starters, we are going to prep our skin with For starters, we need to prep our skin before we apply our foundation. I don't like typical primers. If they work for you, great. For me, I'm just not a fan. So I like to go in with just a nice gentle moisturizer. This is the Morphe 2 Total Softy Gel Moisturizer. I love gel-based moisturizers because it really absorbs into your skin and it kind of makes it almost tacky. So that way when you apply your foundation, it has something really nice to stick to. While I'm letting my moisturizer really kind of set into my skin, I'm going to start off by doing my brows. I'm taking the ABH Brow Wiz brow pencil, and I'm just going to take the spoolie end and brush my hairs up and out of the way as best I can. So starting at the bottom, very, very lightly, I'm just going to fill in any sparse areas and kind of define the line. So at the end, I'm going to take the tail down a little bit just to make it a little bit longer. Then brush my hairs down and do the exact same thing on the top. Once you have the shape like that, which is pretty dang good, I'm just going to lightly fill in any sparse areas in the middle of my brow. And at the very front, just kind of flick it upwards to fill it in. This will help you keep that ombre effect. That way it doesn't look like Sharpie brows, like a James Charles throwback that we don't want.
Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God, I'm scared.
And then take your spoolie end and just blend that product together. That way everything's nice and smooth, one color, and it looks really, really nice. Once both brows are filled in and shaped, if you do make them a little bit too large or maybe they're a little bit messy, you could just easily go in with a flat eyeshadow brush and some concealer and just clean up around them wherever you need to. Sometimes I go a little heavy-handed and my brows end up too thick.
I like them thick. I like them chunky.
Hi, sisters! So next we're gonna go in with foundation. I'm using the Milani 2-in-1 Conceal and Perfect Foundation in the shade 00 Light Natural. I love the coverage of this foundation. It's a medium buildable foundation. I just put a little bit on the back of my hand so that I don't over apply because we don't want any cakiness or anything like that. Little bit goes a long way with most makeup products, especially foundation. When I'm applying this, I'm just going to apply it firstly in the areas where I have the most surface area. So for most people, it's their cheek area and their forehead. So I do this so that I can get the majority of the product that I'm actually going to be using on my face, and then I'll use my damp beauty sponge. This is what I like to use personally to blend out my foundation because it creates a very soft and natural looking finish, and it's just easier. So once I have this foundation applied to my cheeks and my forehead, I'm going to just start blending it all out. The thing with foundation is that a lot of people tend to literally paint on their foundation.
Okay, I like it, Picasso.
So when you see those videos where people are literally painting on foundation, like stripes on their face, and they're like,
Wow, so much coverage.
well, yeah, because you're literally painting on foundation. Foundation is not meant to be painted on. It's meant to be blended out. It needs room to move. Foundation's on, our base is already looking very smooth and nice. And I do want to note that I don't take my foundation all the way up underneath my eyes because that's just a recipe for creasing and nobody on this planet wants creasing. Since we're going with concealer, that's for the most part, most people really only need concealer. They don't need both foundation and concealer. It's a bit overkill. So with this look being more of a glam look, I do want something that's a bit either the same color of... So since this is going to be more of a glam moment, I want to use a concealer that's a little bit lighter than my foundation just to kind of give you that Instagram baddie highlighting look. So I apply some down by the sides of my nose, and then I will take it up at an angle. That way when I blend it out, which you'll see in a moment, it kind of lifts and snatches my face. A little bit down the nose, of course, and then a little bit right in the center of my forehead, and then a little bit on my chin. Okay, so before we blend this concealer out, I'm going to take some setting spray, whatever you want to use is fine, and I spray my face. This is just going to add a little bit of moisture back into my skin, kind of reactivate the foundation's tackiness, and then also allow me to blend it out a bit easier. So I'm taking my little damp mini beauty sponge. I love the smaller ones because you can get in all the nooks and crannies much easier. And I'm gonna start off by blending around my chin area, and then I'll do my nose. I like to do the areas that have the least amount of concealer first. That way I'm not applying too much, because if I did my under eyes where there's the majority of the product first, if I did that first, I'd have a bunch on my sponge, and then if I go down here and on my nose, I'm over applying it then. So I do these areas first, then I'll move on to my forehead, and I do everything almost in like a small circular motion. That way everything is just really nice and blended. For under eyes, just stamp everything into place and then just look up so you can get really, really close underneath your eye. And then I take everything up at an angle, like I said, so it kind of lifts my face. You see how it has that line and it kind of lifts it up? That's what I personally like to go for. Okay, once our concealer is set into place, we need to move on to setting powder. I'm gonna be using my ABH translucent setting powder. So I apply a bit extra powder underneath my eyes and let it sit for about 30 seconds. And then the rest of my face, I'll just take a little bit on my sponge and just stamp it in where I blended out my concealer. If you have areas that are extra, extra oily, make sure you're hitting those areas with your setting powder. Once I've let my under eye powder set for a good 30 to 60 seconds, I'm just going to brush the powder away. So our face is looking flawless and snatched as it is, but now we need to bring some depth and dimension back into our face. So we're gonna start with bronzing. Some people like to contour and some people like to bronze and some people like to do both. I like to just give myself a nice bronze moment. When you're contouring, you're using a product like this, but something a bit more cool toned, and you're trying to emulate shadows to chisel your features and just really give more of a sunken in moment so that your cheekbones look prominent and your jawline looks prominent. When you bronze, you're using a product also like this, but just a bit warmer, and you're hitting the high points of your face to bring back some warmth to your face. I have found shades like this where it's kind of in between cool and warm. It's just almost neutral, but it allows me to have that dimension that I want, but also some warmth to my face. So I start right here in my temple, right on my jaw. So I like to start bronzing in my temple area down onto my cheekbone. And what I do is I don't take it past this outer third. That way I always have a lifted look. If you take it down further, it starts to drag down your face, and we don't want our face to ever look dragged. Is that the word? If you're someone who does not have facial hair, you can also do this on your jawline. Tighten your jaw like that, and just go along your jawline all the way across, and then kind of like flick it down just a little bit. So I'm gonna take a small, more dense brush like this. That way it picks up and applies more product. And I'm just gonna go down the bridge of my nose. Remember, the closer closer the lines are together, the more snatched looking your nose is, and the further apart the lines are, the larger your nose is gonna look. Take it up, and I take it and kind of flick it into my brow. And then what I do is I make sure I apply the product enough right in the beginning, and then I just take my sponge and lightly stamp over it. This is gonna tone it down a little bit, blend it out so there's no harsh lines or anything like that. Next, we're gonna move on to blush. If you don't love blush, you should. I'm gonna go in with my Lunar Beauty Moon Prism Blush palette in the shade Pink Moon. I'm gonna take a brush like this. So this is a bit less fluffy, so it's a bit more dense than the last brush I was using, so it's gonna apply more product, but it's still fluffy enough to where it's not gonna be anything harsh. And I'm just gonna stamp this right on top of my cheekbones and kind of take it up into my temples, just because I want everything to kind of be lifted and snatched. Once you have that step done, if you want to use highlighter, go for it. But I am going to spray my face again with some setting spray, just so that the highlighter has something to stick to. I'm going to go with this Makeup Revolution Internal Glow, I said that weird. And then a little fluffy brush like this, and I just kind of roll it into the product, because I don't want a ton, right above my cheekbone area, and I like to take it down towards the center a little bit. Same thing over here. Take it up towards the end of the tail of my brow, and then towards my apple of my cheek. Just kind of stamp it on. And then if you want to do a little bit on your nose, just do a little bit on the tip. And then don't take it all the way down the bridge of your nose, that's weird. Just do it at the very top, like the first half of your nose. And if you really want to be extra, you can brush a little bit above your brow bone. Lastly, I'm just gonna spray my face one more time. For the sake of time, I'm of course just gonna do one eye on camera and then I'll do the other off camera, but we always wanna make sure that we're prepping our lid with a proper eyeshadow base. If the only thing you have is concealer, by all means, use your concealer, but concealer is not formulated to be on the lids. Your lids end up typically being a bit more oily than the rest of your skin, and concealer is also kind of oily. Hydration on top of oily eyelids is a recipe for creasing and just losing pigmentation and shadow throughout the day. I'm using the Gerard Cosmetics Clean Canvas Eyeshadow Base, which is one of my favorites. A little bit goes a very long way, keep in mind. And then once I apply it, I just flip this sponge around and just kind of stamp over it to really set it in place. This will cancel out any discoloration on your eyelid and really get it prepped and primed for some eyeshadow. So since we're doing a glamorous neutral gold, since we're doing more of a glam neutral moment today, I'm gonna bust out my favorite 35X Big Primpin' eyeshadow palette from Morphe. This is a neutral or glam lover's dream. Now, as I said, this is gonna be a really quick and easy look. That way you can replicate it very easily. It doesn't take you a lot of time, and a very nice go-to look every day if you want. So I'm gonna start off with a rather fluffy blending brush like this. This is gonna allow us to just do a nice wash of color. And what I'm gonna go in with first is more of like a medium brown. So I think we're gonna dip into a little bit of this right here, which is called Beauty Secret. All I'm gonna do is start very lightly and hold your brush at the end of the brush. If you hold it down here, you're gonna apply too much pressure and too much product. Starting in my outer corner, I'm just going to lightly brush this on with small circular motions. This is gonna allow us to apply the product while also blending it out essentially at the same time. Then I'm gonna start slowly taking it into my crease, which is this little part right here, and then down towards my inner corner, just to connect this and kind of create a circular rounded shape. So once you have that first wash of color on, we're gonna take a smaller brush, very similar to the first, but it's slightly smaller. This is gonna apply more product, that way it's gonna apply more product, that way you're gonna be able to apply more of an intense color and less of a washed out, diffused color like we did with the first color. How many times can I say color in 30 seconds?
You said it 3 times in the past 30 seconds.
Color, color, color. So next we're gonna dip into Total Inspo down here at the bottom. This is definitely a beautiful warm toned brown, and we're gonna kind of do the same thing we did, but instead we're gonna take the placement down a little bit lower. So we're gonna again start on this outer corner and start kind of stamping on our shadow and blending it in circular motions. And then we're gonna follow the same shape as the first color, but again, be conscious that you're applying it a bit lower. That way we're not applying it right on top of that first color, because then we'll just kind of end up covering it up. Small circular motions.
Small, but I like them thick. I like them chunky.
Keep everything nice and blended. And I am going to hold the brush a little bit lower this time, closer to the tip of the brush. That way I can apply more product and have a bit more control over it. So just apply as much as you'd like until you get the color payoff that you want. Once we have that color applied like so, and we're happy with it, we're gonna go with that first brush and dip into that first shade, which was Beauty Secret. And we're just gonna go around the entire shape one last time. This is just gonna really make sure that everything's nice and blended, seamless. And again, we can adjust the shape if we want to a little bit. I'm just gonna take it out a little bit more. So you see how that softens it up compared to this side? That's what we want. Now for the lid, we need a bit of sparkle, so we need a good shimmer moment. So I'm gonna dip into Prep Work. Here at the top is a beautiful golden shimmer. Take a flat packing brush like this. Now what I like to do is tilt my head back kind of dramatically. That way if there is any fallout, it doesn't fall out onto my face. It just kind of stays on my lid. And all you're gonna do is stamp this on anywhere on your lid that does not have the shadow that we were just working with. Essentially your whole eyelid. Gorgeous, simple, and easy. Okay, so real quick off camera, I'm gonna throw on some black mascara, black eyeliner, some false lashes, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and here is the eye look all complete. The liner and the lashes definitely just make it look a lot more sultry, doesn't it? It does. Now, if you don't want as harsh of a lower lash line area with the black liner, definitely use like a dark brown. It'll take it down a notch, but still make sense with the look. So now we're moving on to the really fun part, which is the lip. What is gonna make this look just really pop and look contrasting compared to the eyes? A nice red lip. Okay, so while that liquid lipstick is drying down, which takes 30 seconds to a minute, we're gonna spray our face one last time to lock everything in and keep us looking fantastic as long as possible. And that, my friends, is the final look all complete, showing you how to create this super easy, everyday glam makeup look. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope this video was helpful to as many of you But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure you give it a big thumbs up down below. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Are you tired of your foundation looking like this? Are you tired of your foundation looking like this? Are you tired of your foundation looking like this? Nobody wants a dry, cakey mess. So today I'm gonna show you a few tips and tricks that I use every single time I apply my foundation so that you can look like you have face-tuned filtered skin in real life. So step one is to prime our face. So I'm actually gonna be skipping traditional primer and I'm going in with one of my favorite moisturizers to prime my skin. This is the Fix Skin Silk Moisturizer. This is one of my go-to primers to prep my skin. I just don't like traditional primers because at the end of the day, they're just really low-grade, junky skincare. I'd much rather have skincare that's actually benefiting my skin throughout the day, especially if it's gonna be sitting underneath makeup all day long. Another reason why I like to use moisturizers compared to traditional primers is because a lot of times primers interfere with the foundations that you're using. And that's when you get that cakiness and that peeling of the foundation, or it's sliding off your nose, or it doesn't last all day. And personally, I have never seen an improvement in the longevity of my makeup or makeup on my clients by using traditional primers over moisturizers. But as always, if primers work for you and you love it and you see great benefits for you, fantastic.
Okay.
Step two is applying foundation, of course. So I'm going in with my favorite Milani 2-in-1 Conceal and Perfect Foundation, and we're actually gonna apply this to the back of our hands. So we're not applying it directly to a sponge, we're not applying it to a brush, and we're not directly applying it to our face. Then we're gonna take a damp beauty sponge. If you prefer a brush, that's great. I prefer a beauty sponge. I like them to be nice and damp, not sopping wet, not Sahara Desert dry, just nice and damp.
Okay.
Now if you're like, Cody, what sponge is this? Because it's obviously very cool and unique. This is the Thirsty Lemon Beauty Sponge from Alley Things Beauty. Once the foundation is on the back of our hands, we're just going to stamp into it lightly with our damp beauty sponge and then start going into applying it to our face. So I like to start in the larger areas of my face, which of course are my cheeks and my forehead. Now why we're applying from our hand to our face using our sponge instead of just going right on in with it is because it'll help us to control the amount of product that we're applying. If you're someone who just like dumps foundation all over your face and then tries to blend it out, there's already so much product all over your face and you're going to do a lot of extra blending and a lot of extra work just to get that foundation to move, because foundation is meant to be blended out, not painted on or smeared all over the place. It needs to be blended. So pretty much it's much easier to add more foundation when you need it than it is to take it away. So I've used very, very little product, as you can see, and already half of my face is already covered. The coverage is great. It's very, very smooth. It's not gonna settle into my fine lines or anything like that. It's just so much easier to work with and looks natural. So I already have a little bit of foundation on my forehead, of course. I'm just applying a little bit more. I'm not applying a ton. And when I'm blending out my foundation on my forehead, I always like to make sure that I'm blending it upwards into my hairline. That way there's no line of demarcation between your foundation and your skin tone. I always try to make sure it looks as natural as possible. Now, something I like to do is once I have my foundation on my face, which as you can see, it already looks very, very smooth, very nice, but natural. It is a pretty, oh my God. It is more so on the medium side of coverage, but for me, again, that looks perfect because it gives you that natural finish while still improving your overall complexion and your skin tone and just making sure everything looks nice and perfect. So what I like to do after that is take a favorite setting spray. This is from Joa Beauty. This is their Crystal Glow setting spray. I give my face a nice little mist of that. Take the same damp beauty sponge and just lightly press that into the skin. This is gonna help make sure that the foundation is nice and smooth, long lasting. It's not gonna budge throughout the day. And then after this, you'll be ready to go on to your next steps, which of course would be concealer. This is how you get face-tuned filtered looking skin in real life. I hope these beginner foundation tips help you. If there are any specific types of videos you'd like to see from me in the future, please make sure you leave them in the comments down below. Under eye creasing. Ain't nobody got time for creasy under eye concealer. So if you're one of those people that does not have the time to walk around with creasing under eye concealer, I'm gonna show you a couple tricks that I do every single day when I do my makeup to prevent any under eye creasing as much as I possibly can. Let's get started. Okay, so tip number one to try your best to reduce any under eye creasing is to not take your foundation all the way up underneath your eye. Really, more than anything, you're just adding so much extra product, and the more product you have, the more chances that that product's gonna really sit in any of the fine lines that we all have, because we are not mannequins, we are not plastic dolls. We have skin texture, we have lines, we have wrinkles, we have movement in our face, which is going to create some superficial lines. So the less product you can use in delicate areas, such as your under eyes, where you have more chances of having fine lines or wrinkles, the better. Step 2 would be to apply your under eye concealer. Again, less is more, and most concealers are full coverage enough that you don't have to do the giant triangle thing and have like 8 pounds of concealer on, because nobody needs that much concealer. I'd also like to point out that most times what you see on social media when people do the giant triangles of concealer and whatnot, it doesn't actually look good in person. They do so much editing to their videos and photos. They Photoshop things like crazy. So please remember that most things you see on the internet are probably doctored a little bit, so it's not as realistic as they try to make it seem like. Just saying. So I'm applying a little bit down the side of my nose because this is just how I contour my under eyes in general. And then all I'm going to do is place a couple little dots or lines right here, because this is how I contour my under eyes to give like kind of a lifted appearance. But again, that's not a ton. I'm just barely stamping on little dots, and it's gonna blend out beautifully, and there won't be any extra product, which is perfect. So step 3 is blending out our under eye concealer, and what we're gonna do is actually spray our little beauty sponge with some setting spray. This is the Conceal and Define Infinite Mattifying Longwear Makeup Fixing Spray from Makeup Revolution. So we're just gonna let that absorb into the sponge for a second, and then we're gonna start blending everything out. I love doing it this way because you're infusing the setting spray in with the concealer, and it just, 1, increases the longevity of the concealer, and 2, really, in my opinion, helps it stay in place and not crease as easily. So what I'm gonna do is start stamping all of the product in place, and it's pretty much just gonna blend itself out. But I look up just so I can really get up underneath my eye and just start blending it out like I would do, and take it up because this is how I contour in general. But just really stamp that product into place. Don't be super gentle because like you really want to press the product into the skin, because if you're too gentle, you're not really going to set it as much as you'd like. And like I said, we're infusing the setting spray with the concealer, so you definitely want to have a little bit of pressure. Okay, so already we're looking snatched, looking fantastic. Under eyes are super smooth. Okay, the next step is pretty time sensitive and crucial. So you want to make sure that you're quickly pressing out any creasing that you can. Any lines that you can really smooth out, you want to do that right now while your concealer is still kind of damp. Also, side note, if you're someone that has very dry under eyes typically, go for a hydrating concealer. That'll definitely help you a ton. Also, make sure that you're applying a good moisturizer underneath your eyes before anything, because that's really gonna help all the products work together and help the suppleness of your under eyes. Okay, once your under eyes are as smooth as you can possibly get them, take your favorite translucent loose setting powder, take your little beauty sponge again, and we're gonna very, very lightly bake our under eyes. So look up and really press that powder in underneath your eyes. I'm also just going to apply it like I normally would, just because I'm finishing up my makeup anyway. Now, a lot of times people spread this misconception that if you bake your under eyes that they're gonna be super dry and cracky and gross, and that's absolutely just not true. If anything, that notion is really inflated. If you're baking for 5 to 10 minutes, then yeah, you're probably gonna dry out your under eyes a little bit, but when I say baking, I mean for like 60 seconds max. That is literally all you need to set your concealer in place under your eyes and make sure that everything's nice, smooth, and the concealer lasts all day. So for me, it's been about 45 seconds to a minute, so I'm just gonna take a little fluffy brush like this and just very lightly brush away any of that powder. Just be very, very gentle. You don't need to like push real hard because it's loose powder, but just brush it away. Now for the final step, what I like to do is spray my sponge again with a little bit of my setting spray. I stamp off a little bit of the excess because I don't want it to be too wet, and then I just kind of stamp around to really lock in that powder, lock in all the concealer, just make sure everything's nice, set in place, and smooth, and perfect. And just like that, with only a couple quick and easy steps, you can have the most smooth, beautiful under eyes, and the creasing is gonna stay at a minimum pretty much all day. You can thank me later. As a professional makeup artist, one of the most common questions that I get from people who watch my content is that they don't understand how to properly apply or blend out cream bronzer, and they don't know how to get it to last all day. So in today's video, I'm gonna make it super sweet and simple for you guys, and you're gonna walk away from this video feeling like the expert in cream contour and cream bronzing. Let's get started. Just to clarify, I'm really gonna focus on cream bronzing products, but it's still the same concept as when you're using cream contour. It's just a little bit different placement. I don't personally like to use a lot of actual contouring products because they are cool toned and they always look muddy on my skin tone. I personally prefer using bronzers that aren't super, super warm. That way I can kind of get both the same effect of a contour and a bronzer product all in one. And the whole concept of today's video, whether contouring or bronzing, is the exact same. If you like to use contour, or if you like to use bronzer, or if you like to use both, this video is gonna be perfect for you.
Oh, say less.
How to start cream contouring or bronzing. So I'm gonna be going in with this Makeup Revolution X The Simpsons liquid bronzer. This is a liquid cream, and all we're gonna do is start dotting this all over our face where we would typically apply a powder version of this product.
I'm so pale.
Around the perimeter of our forehead, down our cheekbone, down the sides of our nose, a little bit underneath my chin, a little bit underneath my lip. Now this is a good starting place because it's much easier to add product than it is to take it away. So now we're gonna take a damp beauty sponge. We're gonna spray both our face and the sponge with a little bit of setting spray. This is gonna help blend the product out a little bit more. Depending on what specific product you're using from whatever brand, sometimes the product dries much faster than others, so you do have to be careful because it does make it a little bit harder to blend product out once it dries into place. Once you throw it on, get to work.
Okay.
All you're gonna do to blend this out is just really stamp it into place. When we're on our cheek area, we're gonna kind of blend it upwards because that's typically the most flattering when it comes to contouring. And then we're gonna go upwards into our hairline around our temple and just really blend this product upwards and outwards. If you feel like the product is a bit too pigmented or there's too much product, I'll show you how to tone it down and I'll also show you how to add more in a minute.
A few moments later.
Okay, so now we have the initial product on our face. Yes, it's very intense. If you like more of a deeper contour, deep bronze moment, fantastic. If not, what we're gonna do is take the cleaner side of our beauty sponge and just start stamping over everything that we just applied. This is gonna blend it out even more. It's gonna tone down the product a little bit because the sponge is absorbing some of that excess product on our skin. And it's really just gonna help make it look a bit more natural. See, it's definitely toning it down already. Now in this situation, for me, like I would not obviously add anymore because it's definitely intense. It's definitely noticeable, which is obviously what we're going for when we're contouring or bronzing. If you're someone who used a shade where maybe it wasn't super intense and you want it to be a bit more pigmented, definitely just do exactly what you just did again. So now we are answering the question of how do we get it to last all day? So normally what people would do is they would just go in with a fluffy brush like this with a matching contour or bronzing product and they would just dust it all over all the areas that they just applied their cream to set it in place, just like when we're setting our concealer with setting powder. I do it a little bit differently and here's what I do and why.
Then what? Then what?
So I take a lavender translucent setting powder. This is from Fenty Beauty. This is one of my absolute favorites. I also use this to bake my concealer. So what I'm gonna do is take my damp beauty sponge. I'm gonna try to find more of a clean side. I'm just gonna stamp lightly into that setting powder and kind of tap off some of the excess. And what I'm gonna do first is just stamp over all the areas that I've applied my cream bronzer. One, it's gonna set it in place, and two, it's gonna soften it up a little bit. So this side, definitely much more soft than this side. Do this side over here. And of course, we gotta get that forehead. 5 head in my case. Why I also love using this specific setting powder when I'm doing any kind of cream contouring or cream bronzing is because it mattifies it so much and it just looks so good on me personally. And I love a good matte skin moment. Did you see how it toned down the intensity of that bronzer by like probably 50%? It's exactly what we're going for, and I love it, and it's gonna last all day. But we're not done yet. We are gonna take our fluffy brush and dip into a Fenty Beauty bronzer, and we're gonna lightly stamp this over on top of all those places that we have now bronzed and added a little setting powder on top of it. I'm just gonna take a smaller brush and just go down the sides of my nose. And then one last step is of course to set everything in place with some setting spray. This is gonna bring back some hydration to your face and of course, more than anything, lock it all into place and make sure that your face doesn't look powdery at all. Because we did of course use a lot of powder, so this really kind of brings life back into your skin. And that, my friends, is how you quickly and easily apply and blend out cream bronzer or cream contour that's gonna last all day, be super pigmented, buttery smooth and soft, and look gorgeous.
Okay, I like it, Picasso.
So if you're someone who has never used any type of cream product before, or maybe you have and it just didn't turn out well, hopefully this video helps you a ton. Here's the thing. People tend to overcomplicate concealer and how to make it look its best. And you see all these crazy shapes all over people's faces when it comes to concealer. They're painting it on, they're just dumping it all over the face. You don't need to do that. So today I'm gonna break it down real nice and simple for you so you can get the most out of your concealer without having to paint triangles and hearts and circles all over your face. Let's get into it. Why do we use concealer? For one, we're using it to cover blemishes. Two, we're using it to color correct under our eyes or anything that we have going on our face. And three, we use it to brighten our face and to bring attention to the center of our faces. So for me, I don't need to spot correct anything and I don't need to color correct. So really, I'm just using it to start off my contouring. Let me show you how I do it. I use two different concealers almost always. One is gonna be a shade that's pretty much identical to my skin tone, and one is gonna be a shade that's 1 to 2 shades lighter. Why do I do this? I do this so that the first shade is just doing the majority of the job when it comes to concealing my under eyes and on my forehead and wherever I'm going to show you where I place it. And the second shade, I use it to bring a little bit of brightness to those areas without it being
Too much.
So let's get started. So to start off, I'm going with my NYX Born to Glow Radiant Concealer. I have very little left of this because I use it so much. This is one of my holy grail concealers.
Yes! 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 Yes!
So for under eyes, I'm just gonna start by dotting this concealer down the side of my nose, under my eye, and upwards at an angle. I place it at an angle because I like to give the illusion of a lift with my makeup because we always wanna bring our face up, not drag it down, if that makes sense.
That's what she said. And you know what? What was that?
This Then I go with a little bit on my forehead, right in the center, a couple dots down my nose, and 1 or 2, okay, let's do like 5, underneath my lip, just to cover up a little bit of my shadow. Then I'll take my lighter shade of concealer, and I'm gonna very carefully place this, because I don't want too much. So I'm gonna do 1 dot here, here and here, there and there, 1 right in the center, 1 right in the center, and 1 right in the center of there. Yes, you could just go in with 1 super bright concealer shade and get the job done. It'll be very, very bright. I don't personally like that because it looks very unnatural and just not flattering. So I do it this way with this mixture because I do like that natural look with my makeup, but still have a pop of brightness. So when I want my base makeup to be a little bit more intense, a little bit more noticeable, I leave that for when I'm over on my bronzing and my contouring. I let those products do the majority of the sculpting and the like in your face kind of moment.
Out of my face! Out of my face! Out of my face!
Concealer, I just use it to bring the natural vibe to my face and the brightness. So to blend this concealer out, I'm going with a mini damp beauty sponge. I'm gonna spray it with a little bit of my favorite setting spray. This is from Joa Beauty. I like to spray my little mini sponges with that setting spray to really, really lock in the concealer as I'm blending it out. Plus it helps keep it a little bit more hydrated and moist so it can move around on my face a bit easier. So I'm gonna start with my nose. I like to start in the areas where there's the least amount of concealer. That way I'm not over applying, because if I start with my under eyes where there's a lot of concealer and then I go right to my nose, it's just gonna get all over the place. With my forehead, when I'm blending out my concealer, I'm really just going around in a circle and stamping it right into place. It's gonna blend itself out, which is the whole point of using a beauty sponge. It really just blends it out nicely. So the reason we apply concealer to our forehead is that we can kind of start to shrink our forehead, because later when we go in and we contour, it's gonna really give the illusion of a smaller forehead, and I clearly have a large one.
I'm so freaking pissed.
Why we blended the concealer on our nose is to, again, start that contouring process to kind of like snatch the nose and make it seem a little bit thinner. So for underneath my lip, I do a little bit of concealer here just because my 5 o'clock shadow comes through some days more than others, depending on my shaving schedule. So this part's totally optional. You don't need to put anything on your lip if you don't want to. But I really just make sure I get up underneath my eyes, smooth it out, really kind of press out any fine lines, anything that's settling in your eyes. Okay, so now all of our concealer is blended out. You can see it's very nice and smooth. It's very complimenting and flattering to my face. It's exactly what I want. It's not over the top bright. It's just very, very natural and just looks really, really good in my opinion. Also, side note, if you want to increase the coverage of your concealer, little hack for you, leave that concealer sitting on your face for 30 to 60 seconds before you blend it out. The air will start to really get it to get a little bit more tacky, and it's going to get a bit thicker in consistency and really increase that coverage. If you had no idea how to apply your concealer, or maybe you just wanted to find a couple more ways of doing it, hopefully this video helped you. If colorful eyeshadow really overwhelms you because you don't know where to start, I'm going to break down how to create this beautiful, vibrant eyeshadow look step by step so you can follow along and replicate this with ease. So grab your favorite eyeshadow palette and let's just get started. Okay, step 1 before you even put any eyeshadow on your eyes is to properly prep your lid. So I'm going in with the Gerard Cosmetics Clean Canvas eyeshadow base. You can use your fingers, a tiny little beauty sponge, or a dense brush. So anywhere that you're gonna apply eyeshadow, you wanna apply this base. So for eyeshadow today, we're using the OG Blends palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. Yes, Cody Jay still saves you 10%, thanks for asking.
Help me, I'm poor.
We're starting off by dipping into Submerged. So I'm using a rather small but dense eyeshadow brush. And I'm gonna start on my outer corner and start stamping this product on. What we're doing is really placing the shadows and kind of structuring where we want this entire look to go. So stamping motions really allow you to build up the pigmentation much faster. And then once you have it where you want it, then you're gonna blend it out. So I'm just gonna take it around my eye like this and take it up above my crease. We're coming back to this color, don't worry, but I'm actually gonna dip into another shade. We're gonna use Chase, which is this beautiful pink. So for this, I'm just gonna stamp it right over that blue, so we'll get that nice little beautiful purple gradient right there. Yeah, you see how it's working? And then take this pink down to our inner corner. Like I said, right now we really wanna use stamping motion so we can get this product on our lids and built up as fast as possible.
Then what? Then what?
So now I'm actually gonna dip into another shade. We're gonna use a purple. We're gonna use Signs right here. And I'm just gonna lightly feather this in between that pink and that blue just to emphasize that purple a little bit more. So I'm just gonna take a clean eyeshadow brush and just start buffing along the edges just to soften them up and blend everything together nicely. Okay, what do you think so far? I'm thinking pretty cute.
Yes! 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 Yes!
So now I'm gonna take a flat brush. I'm gonna dip into that same eyeshadow base that we started with to cut this crease. Just start stamping it on anywhere that you don't have the shadow. And then if you have hooded eyes, take it above your crease. If you don't, just take it to your crease. Don't worry about this part being perfect. It doesn't need to be.
Okay.
Okay, that looks pretty cute to me. I'm just gonna now set this with a white shadow just so that it sets it into place and it doesn't move around as much. So I'm taking the same colors that we started off with and I'm gonna blend this down onto my lid. Then I'm gonna go in with the pink. And then I'm really gonna stamp on a bright white at the beginning. that's so pretty and so vibrant.
I know!
For the lower lash line, I'm just gonna take a small brush and just blend a little bit of that pink and purple underneath here. This is just gonna really bring everything together. I actually want a little bit of shimmer, so from the All Done Up palette, also from Blend Bunny, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of probably, let's go in with a little bit of Accentuate. Pop that right on the front. Okay, I just wanted to brighten it up even more, and that definitely did just that. Okay, real quick, I'm gonna finish up the other eye, throw on some lashes, liner, and mascara, and I'll be right back to show you guys the final look.
A few moments later.
Okay, I'm back, and here's the final look all complete. What do you guys think? Like I said, my goal today was to show you that you could do a really creative, really fun, and really colorful look with only a few different eyeshadows, and it actually is much easier than a lot of people might think it is. And of course, if these colors are not your vibe, that's totally fine. You can use whatever color combinations you want, but using the same techniques, you'll get the same result. Today, we're gonna talk about baking our concealer. What is baking? Why do we do it? And who should and should not do it? Let's get into it. You know, I do have foundation and concealer on, so now we are ready to bake our concealer. What is baking? So baking, essentially in a nutshell, is when we take a translucent setting powder, like so. This one's actually a lavender translucent setting powder.
It's my favorite.
But translucent, regardless, is just fine. So it's when we take loose setting powder and we apply it, a ton of it, to the areas that we have applied our concealer previously. So let's start baking. We're gonna take just a little bit of setting powder. So what we're gonna do is first just actually set our under eyes before we bake. Oftentimes when you hear people tell horror stories about baking, it's because they just went right in with all the extra excess powder to start their baking, but they didn't actually set their under eyes first. And if you think about it, when you're putting powder on something like concealer that's already damp or wet, all it's gonna do is make it mushy and gross, and then you're packing on even more powder afterwards. That's why people end up looking like a hot mess.
Yeah, immediately no. Immediately no. Immediately no.
So basically, when people are baking, they need to do it right, or else, yeah, of course it's not gonna look good. Okay, so I've now actually set the areas that I've previously applied concealer, and now we're gonna move on to actually baking. So what you're gonna do is take that same sponge, and now you're actually gonna dip into a lot of powder. Just be careful, because obviously it can get messy. And what we're gonna do is look up, and we're gonna really press it in, and we're gonna press a lot of it.
What the fuck?
So now we're gonna go right down the middle of our nose a little bit. So now that we've applied all this excess powder, we're gonna let it sit for about a minute to a minute and a half. So why are we baking in the first place? It's because we really wanna set our under eye, and anywhere we've applied our concealer, we wanna set that in place so that it doesn't move throughout the day. And it also will brighten it a little bit. That's one of the main reasons I do it. But it's also gonna help keep any fine lines or wrinkles at bay throughout the day, because yes, our faces move. We're people, we're human beings, we have skin, we have facial movements. So if you're someone who has very oily skin, this is gonna be something that you're gonna absolutely love. So definitely give it a try. If you're someone who has more dry skin, this may not be the technique for you, because it does pull a little bit of moisture out of your skin. If you have dry skin, you absolutely can bake your makeup. What you're gonna do to help prevent any of that additional dryness that you already have is by using really creamy, really hydrating concealers, a really good moisturizer prior to your foundation and your concealer. You're gonna give yourself as much hydration and moisturization in your skin as possible before you bake. Now, is baking an absolute must for people? No, of course it's not. If you're one of those people who has super smooth under eye, super smooth skin, it doesn't move throughout the day, it doesn't crease, I envy you.
Out of my face! Out of my face! Out of my face!
But for a lot of us, this is necessary. For me, it is necessary. If I don't bake my under eyes, I 100% will start getting creasing maybe within an hour of doing my makeup. So I need my makeup to look as smooth and perfect for as long as possible, because more often than not, I'm filming tons of videos in a day, I'm doing podcasts or interviews or whatever it may be, and I need my face to look 10 out of 10. So now we've allowed the setting powder to sit on our face. It's baked in for a good couple minutes. And what it's really doing is just warming up with the skin and really doing a good job at smoothing everything out. So I'm just gonna take a little fluffy brush like this and just start brushing it away. You don't wanna use a brush that's super dense, because we don't wanna disturb the foundation and concealer underneath the powder. So you definitely wanna use a brush that's more on the fluffier side. I also like to hold my brush at the very end just to make sure that I'm not applying too much pressure. Just very lightly sweep that bake away. So now that we've wiped off that bake, you can see forehead super mattified, super smooth. Everything is super smooth, just very matte, and that's what I want, because especially if you're someone who has oily skin and light's hitting it, it's gonna show off a lot of texture, your pores, whereas if it's super mattified and smooth and baked in like this, you're not gonna see much texture, you're not gonna see as much pores, you're not gonna see anything. It really does a good job at blurring the skin, so you can kind of hide any of your imperfections or things that you just don't want people to really see. So if you've never baked before, or maybe you just wanted to try it and just didn't really know how to to start, or maybe you've tried it and it didn't look really great for you. Hopefully these tips and tricks in today's video were super helpful for you. Please let me know in the comments below if you've never baked before and if you're gonna give it a shot now, or if you have and maybe you wanna try my way of baking. If I'm starting this video out without any eyeshadow on, you know what time it is. It's eyeshadow tutorial time, and today I'm gonna walk you guys through a review and tutorial of the all-new Blend Bunny Cosmetics Primal eyeshadow palette. Let's get started. So I know you guys are as excited about this as I am. Again, this is the new Blend Bunny Cosmetics Primal eyeshadow palette. This time around, this palette has 26 iconic and very pigmented eyeshadows. At the bottom, you'll see there's an oversized black and white pan for those of you who are the creative makeup artists and usually go through the black and whites pretty quickly. This palette is for you. There are also a row of 6 beautiful shimmer shadows down there at the bottom. Now I did post a swatch video of all of these shadows if you'd like to go see them, of course. Okay, so my eye's already prepped with my Gerard Cosmetics Clean Canvas eyeshadow base, of course. So to start this look off, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Toxin, which is this beautiful bold green here in the middle. So I'm just gonna take a fluffy eyeshadow brush and I'm just gonna start applying this to my outer corner and just go in circular motions just to get that product applied and blend it out. The reason we're using a fluffy brush, of course, is just to make sure that while we're applying the product, that it's getting blended and diffused out at the same time. Just saves you a lot of work and time. Okay, once we have that green applied, I'm gonna dip into Camouflage, which is the dark green underneath it. So with this, I'm just gonna stamp it on my outer corner, kind of blend it up into my crease slightly. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on my inner corner, stamp it on and blend it out. Now once we have the green on, I'm gonna take my pinky finger and I'm gonna dip into a little bit of Regal, which is the yellow shimmer here at the bottom. Whoa. So with this, I'm just going to stamp it right in the center, right where we left out any of the eyeshadow. I do find that with the Blend Bunny Cosmetics shimmers, it's just much easier and much more pigmented if you use your fingers. It's just, I don't know, it just works a lot better. Look how bold and pigmented that is. That's insane. And what I'm gonna do is take this dark green that I was just using and very lightly stamp it over the gold just to kind of blend it in. That way there's no harsh lines. Okay, so our upper lid is done. It's literally that fast. And we're gonna throw some shadow underneath our eye now. So I'm gonna take a little bit of the dark green I was using and again, just run it underneath my lower lash line. I'm gonna wipe that brush off and dip into a little bit of Toxin, which is the very first light green that we were using, almost yellow, and just blend out this darker green with it. For inner corner, I'm just gonna pop in a little bit of a champagne highlighter just to bring a little bit of tension to the corner of my eye. Nothing too crazy. Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna do the other eye, throw on a lip, lashes, some liner, and I'll be right back to give you guys my final thoughts and show you the final look. Okay, I'm back and here's the final look all complete. This lip is so intense, I know. But anyway, I think this eyeshadow look is stunning, and it only took me a couple seconds. Like, it was literally so easy. So the Primal eyeshadow palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics is a 10 out of 10 for me. Packaging is spot on as always. It's super beautiful, very vibrant and colorful. The shadows perform like a dream as always. They're super buttery, very blendable. They're very, very pigmented. There's no patchiness. And again, you're supporting an awesome brand, so what's not to love? Oh, hello. One moment, I'm not prepared.
Are you sure about that?
Welcome to 2023, where we're stepping away from the 2016 dip brow, James Charles overfilled jump scare eyebrows. Hi, sisters! And we're kind of focusing on something a bit more natural but sharp. Let me show you how. All you need are 2 products. So we're starting off with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz. I'm using shade medium brown, which is pretty much a good match for me. So I'm gonna start off by doing is brushing my brow hairs upwards on both brows. There's not a lot of movement because I keep them nice and plucked and waxed and all the good things.
You what?
So what I'm gonna do is start at the very front of my brow, not all the way at the front, just like almost there, right there. So what I'm gonna start by doing is flicking the brow pencil upwards at a diagonal to fill in any of those sparse areas. Why I'm doing this at a diagonal is so that I can keep kind of the same direction that my natural brow hairs go in, which helps give you a little bit more of a natural look. Then when I'm getting down towards the tail end, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm just following the direction of my brow hairs again. Now, if you want to extend your tail a little bit like I do, go ahead and do that right now. Then I'm going to brush my brow hairs down, and I'm going to do the same thing on top. So I'm going in diagonal motions downwards into my brow to fill in those sparse areas on top. When we get to the tail end of our brow, same thing, going downwards at a diagonal, following just the natural shape. And we're going to meet the top part of our brow with the bottom part right at the tail to make it nice and sharp.
Then what? Then what?
Now I'm going to take my spoolie and kind of brush that product through my brows. That way it's nice and blended throughout. We don't want super sharp, sharpie brows, blocked brows, anything like that. We want them to look natural, like our natural shape, but we just want them to be a bit more defined and sharp. So now for the very front of our brow. We left it alone in the beginning just because I like to go for that ombre look. That way it's not just super harsh and unnatural. This just gives it a nice gradient, and that's what I like. But what I will do is go in very, very lightly.
That's what she said.
just kind of feather in a little bit of product. I'm applying very, very little pressure to this. I just want to deepen up the color a little bit. And then just flick upwards, front. And then take your spoolie one last time and brush through. Already comparing this side, which is obviously no product in it, to this side. The shape is pretty similar, obviously, on both sides, but this side... Okay, so already, as you can see, there's a big... Okay, so already, as you can see, there's a big difference between this side being slightly filled in and this side being untouched. This side's a nice shape, but obviously there's a lot of sparse areas throughout my brow hairs, whereas this side is definitely a little bit more shaped, filled in, but not overdone. You could just keep going in with product and solidify the color even more. That's when you get that dip brow look where it's just like super pigmented, super filled in, and just very unnatural looking. And it's just not flattering on pretty much anybody. We're essentially accentuating what we already have and just making them look a little bit better. Alrighty, so moving on to our second product, we're going in with the Maybelline Brow Fast Sculpting Gel. This is a mascara gel, but it's fantastic for your brows. You can use any brow gel. It doesn't have to be anything like this. So I'm just going to take that, it has a little mini spoolie on the end, and just brush lightly upwards through the brow hairs that have the product in it and lay those hairs flat. Now, I don't know about you, but on some of my brow hairs, they like stick straight out, and we don't want that. So I'm just gonna give it a nice coating of this just to make sure everything stays in place all day long. And then when I get over here, I really push down my hairs to make sure that the tail end of my brow is nice and sharp and it won't move all day. And that's exactly how you take your brows from this to this using only 2 products. I hope today's brow tutorial was super helpful for you guys. Please let me know in the comments if you prefer doing nothing to your brows at all, filling them in a little bit with a brow pencil just to sharpen them and just accentuate what you already have. Or do you like to go a little bit extra over the top and fill them in with dip brow and give us that 2016 Instagram baddie brow? I'd love to know. If you love Blend Bunny Cosmetics, you're absolutely going to be obsessed with today's video because we're doing a full review and tutorial of the all-new Blend Bunny Cosmetics Lure Eyeshadow Palette. Wow! As well as the all-new Blend Bunny Cosmetics Trove Multi-Chrome Quad. I am beyond excited about both of these, so let's get it on our eyeballs. Before we start getting all this eyeshadow on our eyes, I want to talk about... Okay, so before we start applying everything, I want to talk about some of the... Before we really get into the application of both of these products, let's actually talk about each of them. What are some pros and cons? The all-new Lure Eyeshadow Palette. This has 24 shadows in it. It has the typical Blend Bunny Cosmetics layout, which we all know and love. Now at the top, we do have a row of shimmers that are to die for. They are so blinding, so buttery smooth. This does retail for $46. Now moving over to Trove, which is a brand new multi-chrome pop. Now moving over to Trove, this is the all-new multi-chrome quad. This is so beautiful. It shifts, obviously, in the light. You can see all kinds of different shades. There's some yellow there at the top right under Cove. So look at Cove at the top right. There is green. We have yellows, a gold. So obviously you can see all the shifts in it. It's absolutely stunning. Where's it going? So stunning. Can't wait to throw this on my eye. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room with this quad specifically. So this does retail for $68. Is that expensive? Of course it is for 4 shadows. So what I've gathered from the internet is the reason why these 4 multi-chromes are expensive more than anything is because they're multi-chromes. They're not regular eyeshadows. They're not regular shimmer shadows. They are multi-chrome. So basically what I've gathered from the internet is that these multi-chromes just cost a lot more to manufacture compared to traditional eyeshadows or shimmers. And a lot of brands, especially indie brands, get their multi-chromes from the same manufacturer, which can lead to just higher pricing. That's what I've gathered. So if you are a manufacturing specialist when it comes to cosmetics and want to shed a little bit more light on why the price of multi-chromes across the board, not just with Blend Bunny Cosmetics, across the board, they're pretty expensive. If you can shed some light down in the comments, I'm sure we would all appreciate it. With that being said, let's start the tutorial. Okay, I think I kind of want to match my shirt and the color, the background, and the overall mermaid vibe of this palette. So I think we're going to start off with 332 meters down here at the bottom. And we're going to take that with a Morphe M433 brush. So I'm going to start working this on my outer corner and just really get that pigment, wow, built up. Well, I was going to say built up, but it's like right there, right off the bat. Love that. One of my favorite things about Blend Bunny shadows, the formulation, more than anything, is spot on. They are very pigmented and they blend out so nicely. That's a cute color. Okay, so I'm gonna lay my brush flat and just buff out the edges ever so slightly, just to make sure that's ready for the next color. Alrighty, once you have that first shadow applied, we're gonna dip into a little bit of, let's go in with Sea Nymph right above it. I really love this color. And all I'm gonna do is just go around the edges and kind of buff them out a little bit more with this shade. I just feel like it's gonna bring a little bit of brightness to it, which is what I'm looking for. And again, we're gonna take it all the way down through our crease, down into our inner corner. Then I'm gonna take a clean, fluffy brush, no product on it whatsoever. And I'm just gonna buff out the edge all the way at the top, just so it's a bit softer. We don't want any harsh edges, of course. Next, we're gonna jump right into Trove, again, the multi-chrome quad. And I think we're gonna dip into a little bit of, let's go with Cove. I think Cove is gonna be super cute just because it shifts between the green and the yellow, and I love that. Here it is up close on a brush. Okay, so I'm just gonna brush this right on my lid.
Oh my God!
It's just like surprisingly buttery smooth, buttery soft. Okay, look at that. That is so stunning. The shift, the shine, all of it. So now I'm just gonna take a smaller blending brush and I think I'm gonna dip into a little bit of Tentacles, which is the dark purple down here at the bottom. And I'm just gonna use that to kind of deepen the outer corner a little bit and just bring a little bit more dimension to this outer corner and make sure there's no harsh line in between the multi-chrome and the original shadows. Okay, I'm loving the lid so far. What do you think?
It's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
So I'm gonna take a little bit of 332 meters, which was the first shade we used, on a very, very small Makeup Shack T14 brush. I'm just gonna drag that underneath my lower lash line just to connect everything together. Then I'm gonna blend it out with Sea Nymph, which is that lighter teal that we used, the second shade. Ugh, obsessed. This is very nautical, which is obviously the goal. So real quick, I'm gonna do the other eye off camera, throw on some mascara, liner, and lashes, and I'll be right back to give you guys the final look and my final thoughts. Okay, I'm back and this is the full look all complete. I have to say, I really hope you guys love this look as much as I do. I'm honestly, genuinely so impressed and obsessed with the multi-chromes on the lid. I don't know why everyone feels like they need to make blush and highlight so complicated and so over the top. It is actually very, very simple, very easy, and I'm gonna show you exactly how I apply my blush and my highlight so that it looks... I don't understand why everyone makes the concept of blush and highlight super difficult and like it's some crazy thing. So today I'm gonna break it down nice and easy for you guys so you can see exactly how I apply my blush and my highlight. That way it looks natural and beautiful. Let's get into it. So already on my face, of course, I have makeup on. I have foundation, concealer, bronzer, setting powder, and setting spray on. So now we're moving on to blush. So today I'm going in with the Lunar Beauty Moon Prism Blush Palette. This is one of my favorite blush palettes. You can obviously see that Pink Moon is my go-to shade. So when it comes to applying our actual powder, so when it comes to applying our bronzer, oh my God. So what brush are we gonna use to apply our blush? I cannot talk today. I'm sorry, I can't talk. So when it comes to applying our blush, we're gonna go in with a brush like this. It's both kind of dense as well as fluffy. That way we're both applying product and blending it out at the same time. If you were to use something super, super dense, it's gonna be very patchy, very streaky. It's just gonna be very like someone just threw a ball of blush at you, and we don't want that. We want a nice glow, we want softness, we want gradient, we want beauty. So if you were to use something much, much fluffier like this, you're really gonna get that nice glow. But when it comes to blush, typically we wanna see it a bit more. That's why I use something that's kind of in between both dense and fluffy, like this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna So what I'm doing is stamping into Pink Moon from this Moon Prism Blush Palette. Give a little tap tap, that way there's no fallout, of course. And then all I'm gonna do is start stamping this onto the apples of my cheeks, as well as on top of my cheekbone. Pretty much anywhere you would apply your bronzer or your contour, that's where I like to apply my blush. And I always take it upwards at an angle because I always want my makeup to help lift my face rather than bring it down or drag it down. I just like that lifted, snatched look. So I just like to keep going back and forth in between stamping into the palette and then kind of dabbing it onto my face. Dab.
Really?
Just because it looks really natural and looks really nice. I also don't want to mess up any of the product underneath this blush, so my concealer or my bronzer or my foundation, because if you're using a brush that's a bit more densely packed like this and you're kind of going in circles and just kind of going ham, you can move other product around and we don't want that. So as you can already see from this side compared to this side, right here you see a lot more flushness and you see that blush, you see that kind of that cute warmth it brings back to your face, that dimension. Whereas over here, yeah, you have the bronzer, it's doing what it needs to do, but obviously we can zhuzh it up by applying our blush. Now for my nose, I just kind of give it a little like zhuzh, nothing crazy, but just so it kind of brings everything together and everything's kind of like the same tone. Let's quickly touch on the differences between a cream blush and a powder blush. If you're someone with more dry skin, you'll probably prefer a liquid or a cream blush just because liquid and creams on top of more dry skin usually works together pretty well. But on the flip side, if you are someone that has more oily skin, you'll probably prefer a powder blush just because that powder is going to kind of set that oiliness in place and kind of keep it at bay. And it's going to really do a good job at working hand in hand with that oiliness. Dry skin, probably liquid or cream. Oily skin, probably powder. If you're combo, see which one works best for you. Now let's move on to highlighter. So now that our face is beautiful, it's bronzed, it's blushed, it's gorgeous, we're gonna spray our face with some setting spray just to kind of bring back some hydration. Oh, that smells so good.
I mean, that's nasty.
nasty.
So for highlighter, we're going with the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Noctilucent Highlighter Palette. This is absolutely stunning. As you can see, it shifts depending on the light. So gorgeous. When I first opened this palette up, depending on the light that I was in, I saw it like this. So I only saw like one pink color. And then when I turned it, it's still kind of hard to tell on camera, but when I turned it, I was like, oh, there's actually, you know, 6 completely different shades. Love that for Blend Bunny. So I'm gonna take a Sigma F35 tapered highlighter brush like this. I'm gonna dip into a little bit of, let's go with Transient down here at the bottom. Now keep in mind, this specific highlighter is more glittery than most highlighters, but the concept and application is still the same. Typically speaking, you're gonna wanna apply it to the high points of your face where sunlight or filming lights would naturally hit it. It's just meant to accentuate this area. I'm just gonna kind of shimmy it down from like the temple area, down on top of my cheekbone. Look at that glitter, that's amazing, oh my God.
Damn.
So then we're gonna do the same thing over here. If you want a blinding highlight, this is the palette for you. Now for me, I always like to just lightly tap above my brow bone. For the nose, I'll just do a little bit on the tip, and then I'll take my finger and just kind of stamp over it and go up the bridge a little bit. I just want a little bit of brightness on my nose. Now some people like to do their Cupid's bow. I don't think that looks good. It's weird to bring attention to the Cupid's bow in my opinion. It just doesn't look good. So then what I like to do is take my damp beauty sponge, which clearly has been through a lot today. I just always stamp over my highlighter just because I wanna make sure that everything's nice and blended in together. The contour, the bronzer, the blush, the highlighter. If you're someone who had any questions or concerns when it comes to blush application, the differences between powder or cream blushes, as well as highlighter, hopefully this video answered all those questions or concerns for you. As always, thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in the next one.